got some leaked intel on Derek Carr and his tenure for the remainder of his time here in New Orleans. So we're going to talk about Tweedledee and Tweedledumbass right here on screen in today's video. We're also going to dive into what's coming next for the New Orleans Saints. Will they draft a quarterback? Is Spencer Rattler actually the answer? I'm going to give you my full thoughts and analysis in today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Welcome into Saints Now by Chat Sports. Hope y'all enjoy the show. Now let's start things off here. Nick Underhill, excuse me. He started things and added some context the other day after this whole Derek Carr debacle came out. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, long story short, Derek Carr has a shoulder injury, and we may or may not get to see him play in the season. And he may have taken his last snap as the Saints quarterback, and it's actually insane to think, Lopez, his last play as a New Orleans Saint quarterback was hurdling over Giants defenders on 2nd and 10. Ridiculous, if you ask me. But, according to Nick Underhill, Derek Carr and the Saints have been in communication about this injury. And there were allegedly no surprises in the Saints front office. So that's pretty interesting. And, I was doing a little bit of more research, and I found some more news and nuggets from Dianna Russini, and it backs this point up. The 34-year-old quarterback is dealing with a shoulder injury that could end up costing him the entirety of the upcoming season, says Dianna Russini. She continued to say, while that became public knowledge on Friday, it didn't come as a surprise to Carr or the Saints. Both player and team have known surgery is a possibility. Now that adds some more intrigue to the Saints draft plans. As they own the 9th overall selection, they've drafted quarterbacks each of the past 2 years in Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener, but haven't drafted one in the first round since Archie Manning back in 1971. And, it's interesting. Carr is the starting quarterback, at least for right now. We don't know about it moving forward. I mean, Haener and Rattler were both later round selections, about day 3 picks. But this nugget from Pat McAfee's show, Ian Rappaport joined the McAfee show, and he said that a lot of Saints players didn't know about Derek Carr's injury. And long story short, I went into full detail and got a full reaction out. And, I just think this whole situation's weird. I think this whole thing is odd. The timing of it is off. The fact that the front office knew, but the players didn't, it's weird. They agreed to this restructure, and I don't know. Like, this whole thing is weird. Something's off about this. Something's fishy. The rebuild, may or may not be here entirely now. But I agree with Dianna Russini, and I agree with a lot of y'all's thoughts that the number 9 overall selection just got a lot more interesting. But, Derek Carr could still be on the roster. Or maybe he could be, or couldn't be. Could the Saints end up cutting him? We're going to talk about that here in a second, because the financial side of this is something that we have to discuss. So really quick, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Saints Now by Chat Sports is just 62 subs away from our next milestone of 43,500 subs. We're chipping away on the road to 50K. So help us out and subscribe today. And let's get to that next milestone. 62 of y'all I know haven't subscribed. So hit the sub button for daily Saints content by Saints fans for Saints fans. All right, this conversation around Derek Carr and cutting him is certainly interesting, because I think with Carr, it doesn't make sense based on how the New Orleans Saints have been operating thus far. And with the Saints, they've been operating to win the division and compete to win the NFC South this year. And that's been echoed by some of the moves they've made through trades, Devon Godshaw, and, sending away Marshall Lattimore last year. And then also, signing Justin Reed and bringing in Brandon Cooks. Like, I think these are moves that indicate the Saints want to continue to win. But after this restructure, the Saints would actually take on a $20.4 million dead money hit if the Saints designate Carr as a post-June 1 cut. And in 2026, the cap number sits right now at just under $70 million, 69.2. Very nice. It's a lot of dough for a not bottom of the barrel. He's not dog shit, but he's lower end quarterback. A high low end quarterback or a low high-end quarterback, if I don't know if I said that right. Point being, Carr is very middle to low tier. That's way too much money for him. And the dead cap hit in 2026, if he's a post-June 1 cut, is $59.6 million. And there is a no-trade clause. So we have to see whether or not things will transpire to Carr being cut. Does Carr end up actually being able to play? Do they try to trade him? I mean, we remember Carr actually was open to testing the market, and reports from Jeremy Fowler earlier this offseason suggested that he was open to a departure. But the Saints were the ones who restructured Carr's contract and ultimately decided to keep him around. I do think that it's interesting, though, when you have the conversation about what's to come next. Because with Spencer Rattler, he's a player that I do believe deserves an opportunity to prove himself. And I'll say this, I don't think it's fair to rule out Spencer Rattler entirely quite yet. And we've seen him already get to work. We've seen him already start practicing. We've seen him already show up. Today, the New Orleans Saints started their voluntary offseason workouts. But Spencer Rattler, before that even started, was already at the practice facility. I mean, he posted this on Instagram before offseason workouts started. So to me, that tells me Spencer Rattler's locked in. Spencer Rattler's all in on this year. Spencer Rattler is taking this offseason very seriously. He's not giving up. He wants to be a starter in the league. And I'm not trying to convince you one way or another that Spencer Rattler could be, but I do think he deserves a chance, and I do think he deserves an opportunity. And I think that Kellen Moore also kind of believes that as well. I mean, look at what he said just a handful of weeks ago. Rattler's a really good player. He's got tons of tools. And he even went on to also say that, some of those things that he had to deal with last year were things out of his control, like the injuries and like the head coach getting fired. Like, that's not his fault. Those are things he can't control. Kellen Moore's also excited to continue to build and develop Rattler as he goes through his second offseason, which is his second offseason for a lot of guys is when they make that big jump. So I really don't want to rule out Spencer Rattler quite yet. I think he should get an opportunity to see what we got. And if the Saints don't draft a quarterback, I think that this is a win-win situation because either A, you figure out that Spencer Rattler is worth trying out and keeping around and developing and working on, and he could be the guy. Or you end up with the top 5 pick and you can go and get whatever quarterback you want next year. So I really do believe it's a win-win. But, were they going to draft a quarterback this year? I encourage you to stick around because I do think that that's something that's very, very on the table. And we're going to talk about the quarterback situation. We're going to talk about who I think it is. And we're also going to talk about who Vegas thinks the Saints are going to draft. But really quickly, I got to give a big time shout out to Game Time for sponsoring today's video. Game Time is absolutely amazing. It's the best ticketing app in the whole wide world. And going to live events is so much more fun than just watching them on TV or watching them on your phone or your laptop or whatever. Being in attendance is unmatched. The hype is real. The energy is off the charts. And I promise you don't want to miss out on any big moments across sports, concerts, comedy shows, or any other live event. And you can do that with the Game Time app. Make sure you don't miss out on Saints games. Make sure you don't miss out on Jazz Fest. Don't miss out on LSU baseball. Don't miss out on any of these awesome sporting events or live events in your city. It doesn't have to just be limited to Louisiana. It doesn't have to just be limited to the Gulf Coast region. It can be anywhere across the country. My Arkansas Razorbacks are taking on the LSU Tigers here in a few weeks. You can also already buy tickets to Saints games this year. Oh, and by the way, let's show this picture really quick. You see that? The super deal. That's a really, really good thing you got to check out. Game Time is now highlighting their super deals, which means that these tickets are the best value for their specific events. So I highly encourage you to check out the super deals feature, but I also want to tell you about Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff to show you only seats and incredible deals on tickets that you're actually interested in. That way you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but once again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All the information is in the comments and description of this video. So I want to start this off kind of picking up where I just left off. Drafting a quarterback is a very, very realistic option. And I do think that the New Orleans Saints are a team that should be looked at as a team that will take a quarterback at some point this year. And I'm a believer that until you have your franchise guy, you should keep taking swings. And maybe, just maybe, you get a very, very high-level backup. Or maybe you get your guy. Or maybe you just keep on swinging until you hit a home run. But the Saints have shown a lot of interest in a lot of different quarterbacks. These 8 guys have spent some time with New Orleans already. And I do believe the Saints are a team that have done a lot of homework, like an extensive amount of homework. And I know that to be true because we've seen the amount of time they've spent with Quinn Ewers, at Jalen Milroe, with Kyle McCord, with Jackson Dart specifically. But all of that considered, all of that being said, that doesn't matter who we want. Like, we can all sit here and say, I like Cam Ward, or I like Shedeur Sanders, or I like Jackson Dart, or no, wait until next year and let's go get Garrett Nussmeier, or let's wait and have the March for Arch. Like, let's just be patient. Like, all of those things are very understandable, and all of those things can be true. And let me just say one thing really quickly here. As a Saints fan, I could care less about who is actually the quarterback. I could care less if it's Derek Carr. I could care less if it's Spencer Rattler. I could care less if it's Haener. If you want to go draft Shedeur, fine. Jackson Dart, fine. Tyler Shuck, fine. Will Howard, I don't care. You want to wait till Garrett Nussmeier, Arch, fine. I really could care less. It could be Uncle Rico as the starting quarterback. I just want to see somebody take it over and be the guy. I want somebody to be the franchise quarterback. I want to see somebody take command of this offense and run Kellen Moore's offense at a very high level. That's all I want to see. I don't care what the name is on the back of the jersey. Now, in case you were curious about Shedeur, DraftKings has updated odds. The Saints are now minus 130 favorites to draft Shedeur Sanders. Another team to keep an eye out for here is the Pittsburgh Steelers. DraftKings has them at plus 350, which is a distant second place. So when it comes down to the conversation, the guys in Vegas and the experts and a lot of mock drafts and a lot of buzz says Shedeur to the Saints at number 9 overall. But I'm going to be honest, I genuinely believe that Jackson Dart is Kellen Moore's guy. And maybe I'm wrong, and that's okay. And I'm not saying I like one of these guys over the other. I just believe Jackson Dart fits what Kellen Moore wants to do more. Kellen Moore wants to do more. That's crazy. I feel like he fits Kellen Moore's scheme a little bit better. I feel as if he can run Kellen Moore's offense a little bit better. And I feel as if the fact that Kellen Moore was physically present, personally there, spending time with Jackson Dart at the Ole Miss Pro Day, and not at Shedeur Sanders, I don't think that is insignificant. I think the fact that Scott Tolzien and Keith Williams were at the Colorado Pro Day indicates that there is interest. But I think that if the head honcho, the head coach, the guy who's making decisions, the guy who's looking for his franchise quarterback still, I think him being present means something. Now, if you had to pick between the two, which one are you going with, Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart? Let me know down in the comment section. Just type their initials. Type SS for Shedeur. Type JD for Jackson Dart. And look, I'm going to end on this right here. Don't be surprised if the Saints draft a quarterback at number 9 overall. Because if Kellen Moore thinks that that's the guy we want, that's my guy, I want him, they're going to make that selection. And I think that us Saints fans should rally around whoever that selection is. Maybe you wished it was this player. Maybe you wished it was that player. I can understand that. But at the end of the day, I think we can all agree, we just want to get back to winning. We want to get back to being on top of the NFC South. We want to get back to being a team that's feared and respected. And quite frankly, we're not going to get that until we make some changes at the quarterback position. And one more friendly reminder to be sure to subscribe to Saints Now by Chat Sports. Got a lot of fun draft content coming your way leading up to the big day. And of course, we're going to be live all 3 days of the 2025 NFL Draft. So we hope to see you guys there. Y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.